Hello, third grade, and welcome to our reading skill for today. Now, if you watched the turkey challenge video, you know that you need to make a mark that you see a turkey on our screen. That is the first one. If you see any more pop up in our video, make sure that you make another tally mark so you can record how many turkeys you see. Let's go ahead and begin with our reading skill. Now, for today, you will be rereading this passage. Now, for some of you, I will add a voice note on yours that has it read. But for everyone else, you will need to record your reading. So that means that you are going to click on the record button and then click record and then start reading. Remember to read the heading as well. This passage is going to be about Wampanoag clothing. Now, Wampanoag are a Indian tribe, and they are going to tell you about the typical dress that they would wear. At the very bottom, there are a couple of questions on the side that you need to answer. You may use a voice note. Again, click on the record and then record tool and then click record to answer. This you may just circle the answer. The bottom gives you some labels of what their dress would look like. And it says in the caption at the bottom, maybe an answer to something, that the Wampanoag man dressed for a special occasion. So that's what this picture is showing us. Now let's move on to the second reading, and this one we are going to read together, and then you can read again and record yourself reading to practice reading out loud. So this one is about the pilgrim's clothing. Let's go ahead and begin. As I am reading, I want you to follow along and highlight the words I highlight. Pilgrim clothing. The pilgrims wore many layers of clothing. The girls wore petticoats, highlight petticoats, skirts, blouses, coats, boots, and stockings tied with garters. They also wore a coif on their heads and an apron. Around their waist, she would tie a small sack called a pocket. Pockets were not sewn into clothes back then. The boys wore breeches, highlight breeches, stockings, garters, and boots. They wore a short coat called a doublet, highlight doublet. A boy's breeches were laced up around the waist and tied on each day. There were no sewing machines, so the clothes were made by hand and colored with things the pilgrims found in the New World, plants, animals, and minerals. Now we can look at the bottom to help us understand some of the words we highlighted. The first one is a petticoat. So by looking at the picture and the reading, I want you to think about what a petticoat might be. It's a skirt. A petticoat is a synonym for skirt. It's a type of skirt they would wear. Then also, I want you to look at where blouse is pointing. Maybe you've never heard of the word blouse, but blouse is a name for a shirt. Normally, blouse is referring to a fancy shirt or a nice shirt. And then on top of her head, you can see a coif is another name for a bonnet. And then her apron, that's on top. And our caption tells us that this is a picture of a pilgrim girl in her everyday clothing. Now you can see I have a question on the sign. What is the main idea of this passage? What is this passage all about? Please click on the record tool, pause the video, and record what the main idea is, what you think the main idea is. All right, after you have recorded yourself reading the story, then we may move on to the next section. So you can pause the video, record yourself reading, and then we'll move on to the second part. Comparing and contrasting. Remember, comparing, we are saying how they are similar, and contrasting, we are saying how they are different. There are specific words we can use to describe how they are similar and different. Now, we can use two resources, two text features to help us describe the differences and similarities. We can use the pictures and we can use the text. So first I want to think about what is the same between the Pilgrims and Wampanoags. We will do one for each section and then you will have to add one for each section afterwards. So you can stay on this page on your Classkick, but look at the video and we're going to go back and look at some differences between the two of them. Sorry, some similarities. So they talked about in both parts that they would use animals or parts of animals in their dress. So at the end, in the last paragraph, it said that they made and colored, there were no sewing machines, so the clothes were made by hand and colored with things Pilgrims found in the New World, plants, animals, and materials. They used those to color their clothes. The Wampanoag Indians also used animal skin in their clothing. So they both used animals in their clothing. So we can add that as a similarity. And I'm going to write it as a full sentence. You will have to click the A to make your letters smaller because you're going to need to be able to fit it in there. So you click the A to make your word smaller. And then we're going to type complete sentences for this using a word that we would use in comparing and contrasting. So if I'm using something that is same, I can use and, I can use similar, I can use the same, I can use also. So the Pilgrims, and that's my compare word I'm going to use. Wampanoags, get a capital letter because that is their name. Oops. Both, that's another key word to mean the same. Use animals in their dressing. So now I can talk about something that is different between the Pilgrims and the Wampanoags. Now, if you are following this chart, this first one is going up towards the Pilgrims, and the second one is going up towards the Wampanoags. So this will be about the Wampanoags, and this will be about the Pilgrims. Now, since you are reading about the Wampanoags on your own, I will leave that one for you to do on your own. And we will do something that is different about the Pilgrims. So the headdress that the Pilgrims ladies wore was called a coif, and the Wampanoag did not have that. So I'm going to use that as one of my differences. So for differences, when I'm talking about contrasting two things, I can use words like although. I could use however is another comparing word. I could use but is a comparing word. So I could write Pilgrims wore coifs, but Wampanoags did not. I could also write what they did wear as a headdress. I can go back into my text. You can see that they wore a feather headdress. They wore a feather headdress. Once you're finishing typing out what I typed out, I'll zoom in a little bit if you want to pause here to catch up. Then you are finished after you record your voice with the Wampanoag and the Pilgrim passages, and then write the differences between the Wampanoags. What a difference between the Wampanoags was. Something different that we had than what we put for the Pilgrims.